Okay, so what we discovered in moving this around, that the root of the spine is stuck to this joint still, regardless of how we chose to parent constrain this cluster to it. Okay, so we need to figure out how we can make this function better. Now, what I think should probably happen is we would want to maybe parent constrain maybe that cog joint to this control also. So let's see what behavior we get if we do that. Or the base joint. Okay, so we're going to tell it to constraint. We can do a parent, make sure maintain offset is on, and we'll click add. Okay, now if I select this control, the whole rear end of the bird moves. Okay, and if we wanted to see what that looks like with the mesh on, it's probably a lot better. Now we can tell that my leg has not been parented back in on the hierarchy, so we probably should take care of that. So we'll zero this back out. And as far as organization goes, these joints don't ever have to be parented back in. That's kind of a game mandate. But in feature, we don't care. We can use broken hierarchies on our joints. So what I like to do to keep things organized is I'll grab all three of my joint chains, and I will parent each. I'm going to group them. And then I'm going to tell that group, so let's call this leg joint chains, leg underscore left underscore group. We need to be more specific than that. So I'm trying to think of a good one. So we'll call it leg joint chains, I guess. Okay. Then we want the spine bottom to control this. So we'll do that with the parent constraint. We go to parent constraint with the maintain offset on. And now, if I select this control, let's see. Okay, that's still not right. Something went wrong. Okay, so we undo that movement. We'll figure out what went wrong here. I'll admit I'm a little confused why they didn't do anything. Okay. So let me pause the video while I figure this out. It's kind of annoying. I'm not sure what happened here. Okay, so maybe I shouldn't have used this group to parent constraint to. So let me delete that parent constraint. I still haven't really thought why that wouldn't work, but let me collapse this group by double clicking on it, and then I'll reopen it. And instead of parent constraining the group, I'm going to parent constrain each joint. And actually, I probably should just use orient constraint or a point constraint, sorry. So, because we don't want to, we still want our animator to be able to control the rotates of those joints. So I'm thinking slightly more clearly now. Okay, so I'm going to select the spine bottom anim and then the hip IK left joint. I'm going to go to constrain point. I'm going to tell it to maintain offset. Okay, I'll click apply, and then I'm going to deselect the hip IK and select the hip FK, apply, and then I'll select the hip bind and apply. Okay, now let's see what behavior we get. And that's what we wanted. Okay, so let me turn off these joints somewhat. And now we've got the skin of a bird all following this joint just like we wanted. Okay, and the leg, the foot staying planted. And so, I mean, the body's stretching out kind of weird, but we'll have to work on that. And then just to show you my foot switch, there it is in FK mode. Okay, so that worked great. Undo back to before we moved that and save. And basically we're done with the spine. Now we'll do the same thing to the neck. So the neck should be easier to do, even though it's longer. So I'm going to turn off polygons. And we go to create CV curve tool. It should have the same settings I had before. I guess we'll double check, make sure it's on cubic. Okay. Oh, didn't mean to minimize. And we want to snap these to the vertices of this, of the joints of the neck. And I'm going to go ahead and create one per joint, all the way up to the base of the neck. So or the base of the head is what I meant to say. Okay, so with that done, I'll press enter. I'm going to rename this curve to neck underscore curve. And now we need to, I'm going to see what happens if I don't line up this curve very well with the joint positioning. Okay, well, I'm going to pay close attention to see how much this jumps around, because it could end up being a nightmare. So we go skeleton, IK spline handle tool, and we're telling it not to root on the curve, so hopefully that will help it act a little bit better. But this time we need to grab from our hypergraph, we need the neck 0, the head base, and our neck curve. Okay, we got a new IK handle. Let me rename this to neck IK. Okay, and then we need I'm going to go in with the neck curve selected. I'm going to go into component